want to fall off or let anyone fall off. And so we figured we would do something a little different tonight in terms of the engagement and what this event is all about. I had a chance to meet Michael Fleming, over 10 years ago.
Right. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's been about 10 years. And
Yeah.
he is a founder of the King as well as United Community Care Alliance. And he's a nonprofit organization that actually brings communities together to be able to service the community. So he's like a convener, well connected, know a whole lot of people in the great state of Georgia. And I can't say enough about him. And, we started talking. He was actually the inventor of the clapper. I had to put that plug in there, Mike. He is
Uh,
a genius. And so I wanted to bring him to the table to share a tool that he actually developed. He's developed an app. He's developed so many different cool things, cool tools. But this tool is all about, it's called the Vision Quest. And it's all about life planning and really looking at things that have occurred in your past and looking at things that are happening in your future. What are some of those barriers? What are some of those blockers? And as we all know, having gone through not only, our journey with cancer, but also even looking at the journey with COVID and everything that has happened in the world. And so we just wanted to bring him, bring him and his expertise to just kind of do exercise with us tonight to really help us open our minds, get us thinking. The world is starting to open back up. So what is that going to look like for us for the next year or two? So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
yeah. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Tia, for that. And I am humbled about it, actually. I never get used to any kind of introduction because my mind is automatically set on how can I help and how can I serve. And I actually have the weirdest introduction for this exercise. This particular exercise that we're going through, and I put a link in the chat. If you're able to, you can print it out, or you can click on the there's a website software for the exercise that we're going to do, but we call it Vision Quest. I'm gonna try to keep it under probably about 35 minutes, 40 minutes max. And in less than 35, 40 minutes, we're going to map out your entire life in just that short time period. And then if you have time afterwards, would love to kind of talk about what some of the next steps would be or some of the things that we can do. And I never take this exercise for granted. It's a life mapping exercise. And the disclaimer behind it is it's personal, it's private, it's confidential. As a matter of fact, we have a copy of it online that you can actually do later. And so we'll talk about that as well. And the reason that I have such an awkward introduction, because if I say it more, it would give away some of the questions in the particular exercise. So without further ado, and thank you again, Tia, I'm gonna go ahead and do the screen share, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start the process. And there's no wrong or right way in this process at all. And so if you kind of think of something in a particular way, what I'll try to do is look into the chat. I'll try to keep checking the chat. Please feel free to put in all your thoughts or raise your hand or that kind of thing. And Tia and I both will kind of monitor that, and it's definitely an interactive process. So I'm going to switch over to my screen share, and I'm going to pull up the file. And it's a very visual exercise, and most of the things I do, I usually try to make some visual format. I am not an artist, and so I don't make any promises, but I tell people I know how to work PowerPoint pretty well. And so so you're going to see this in a PowerPoint format, but it's an actual exercise. So again, the link to the files that you're about to see is in the chat if you're able to print it out. But this is our life mapping exercise. And I tell people, if you've ever done this with us before, with someone else that we've trained on how to do this, then I tell people the second time you're doing it, you actually are learning to be you're training. You're in essence learning how to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right on into it. The Vision Quest exercise starts with this particular drawing right here in front of you. And again, in less than 35 minutes, your entire life is going to be mapped out on this single sheet of paper, just this one single sheet of paper. And so, but I start off by letting people know, now this part I do share, is that there are 206 bones, 46 chromosomes in our bodies, but we're the person behind our eyes. And so the whole idea of how we're experiencing our life and the world around us and the way we're processing it. And I've learned over the years to tell people that, the universe has requested your presence. That's how significant all of us are, right? Is that if the universe, didn't see us as the significant, wonderful people that we are, it would have another direction for us, but instead it allows us to have this moment, this particular moment together. And in this diagram, we're gonna share that. Okay, someone's there. Okay, and I'm gonna load this up. Okay, and so now the way this works, this little diagram starts at the bottom and then it works its way to the top. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and start at the immediate bottom. And this life map is inside of all of us. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna look at all the sections of it. And so at the very bottom, we're gonna take that very bottom circle, and well, there's actually all the different sections that I was talking about. We're gonna move through it. I'm using a PowerPoint I hadn't done on Zoom yet. So at the very bottom, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take and you're gonna split that circle at the bottom in half. With the circle at the bottom in half. And then good or bad, happy or sad, what you know or don't know. What you do is that you write on both sides. I'm waiting on my system. What you do is either on one side or the other, you can write the name of your mother on one side and the name of your father or whoever were your parents or your guardians that raised you. That's what that bottom circle is dedicated to. Who are the people that raised you? Now, in this entire exercise, this is the only part of this that you don't have to know the full story to. And again, whether you know or don't know, good or bad or happy or sad, who are the people that helped raise you? And you can put your mother's name on one side, or you can just write mother and father. Okay, and there's a question. Oh, I thought I clicked on it. I don't know where it went. Uh-oh, where'd the chat go? I apologize. That was a chat question, but it's not letting me see the chat.
Just put the link back in there because I know some people joined.
Okay.
Post it, and Zoom does a weird thing where you can't see it if you weren't in there when it first was posted. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh no, I appreciate that. No. I genuinely, no, I absolutely 100% appreciate that. And okay, and so I did not know that. See, so that's good. Okay, so let me go to the PowerPoint. All right, so at the very bottom again, you put this circle is symbolic of your family history. That's what that's symbolic of. And now what's unique about this is I've done this for so long, over so many years, that at the end of this, if we have time, if you tell me what year you were born and what part of the country, I typically can tell you what your parents did for a living when you were born. There's a whole set of things that circle indicates about the way that we ate our parents' diet. We ate our guardians' diet. All the things that they did in those first years of our life, we were consumed by what they consumed and how they managed their money, how they managed their relationships, how they managed their friendships, their connections to other people, and the way they kind of managed the world. And so this is not as subtle as just simply having you put in who were the people that raised you. So good or bad, happy or sad, who are the people that helped raise you during that time period? Okay, so now the next section is this top section right here, these 5 circles across the bottom. Those 5 circles are going to be what we call the 5 chapters of your life. They're going to be the 5 chapters of your life. So this is the longest part of the instructions. And the way this works is there's an age chart. There's an age chart that comes with this. And so the age chart, what's going to happen is, and again, this takes the longest time period. You have to find your age, and then it's going to divide your age into 5. And then you're going to write your age above and outside of these 5 chapters. This is the longest part of the instructions. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm clicking and see if it's going to move. Okay, so this is what we call the 5 chapters of your life. So those 5 circles here. Okay, so this is what that age chart looks like. So what you do is you find your age first over here on the left, your age range, your closest age range. I'll give everyone a second to find this. I'm a gentleman from the South, so I know not to ask a woman for her age. So you do not have to share your name. You do not have to, you don't have to share any part of this experience at all. As a matter of fact, if you want to, you can write the instructions down and you can answer the questions later. So the first thing, again, find your age here on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to need you to write down those different sections of your age. Or again, if you just memorize them, you'll see them, some of them pop up here in a second. Okay. And this is literally going to be the timeline of your life. And if you see down here at the bottom, I got the bubbles down here because those ages are going to go above and outside of those five chapters. And by the way, too, if you end in a particular age range, you're gonna end it at the age that you are, not necessarily the number that's up here. And okay, and there's a check thing real quick. I'm gonna check that. Okay, good. Okay, good. This time, if you haven't brought it, please. Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. Tia's
Mike,
looking
I'll
out.
manage the chat so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. See, so now, and then once you have this age range, and I'm telling you, I don't mind going back to something if someone misses it as well. Okay, so once you have this, what you're going to do is, and I'm kind of showing an example here. So we're in the 5 chapters of our lives down here. And what you do is you put that age range across the top. So if you're 39 years old, it ends at 39, right? But if you were 40, it would have said 33 to 40. So whatever your timeline was, that's what you put across the top and outside of those 5 chapters. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to the timeline because I want to just make sure that everyone sees it now. So again, whatever your timeline was on the left, your age on the left, you're gonna put your age range across the top. I tell people all the time, I am the sum of my parts. So little of who I am, I can claim for myself. And usually when you tell the story right, there's something greater than yourself that's always involved. And so I never kind of define, okay, that's interesting. The little red mark came across. I don't know what that said. I've never seen that before. Okay. Oh no, something, how's that happening? Okay, something scratching across the top. I don't know if y'all can see that. Okay, so I've never seen that before. Okay, so again, the 5 chapters of our life, and what I'm going to do, if now the circles are symbolic. So if you run out of space, you can always write on the back, or you can print a second page. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about these experiences in your life. And so the way this is set up, the first question that I need you to write in each one of those chapters, and we're going to turn on the larger memories in your mind. Where did you live during those chapters of your life? Physically live. It can be city, town, state, country. You can do it down to an address if you want to. You can be as specific as you want to be, or as general as you want to be. But in each one of those chapters of your life, where did you live during those chapters of your life? You physically live during those chapters of your life. And there are going to be 2 more questions in each one of these chapters, these sections, these bubbles.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
We have a question in the chat. Someone said they don't see their age on the sheet.
Okay, let me go back. Are they okay with sharing it?
You should be able to, let's see, do you want to post your age in a group?
Yeah, I know.
Or you want to just...
Hi, it's Shelly. I see my age on the left. So it's between 51 and 55.
Okay.
And what am I supposed to be doing on the trash chart drawing? But I messed up.
Yep. So on the drawing, your age breakout is going to be 0 to 11 years old, 12 to 22, 23 to 33, 34 to 44, and then
okay, I got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then and you're going to put them across the top. So that very bottom circle, we split in half, and we put your mother and father or whoever raised you in the very bottom circle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then the top circle, what we now have done, for the 5 chapters, what we call the 5 chapters, you put your age range in those 5 chapters. And then the first question for each one of those chapters is, where did you physically live in those chapters of your life?
Okay.
And for those who just came on, and we put if for now, if you want to just write the instructions down, if you haven't had a chance to print it out, and then we also have we have a video of this as well, if you want to go back to it later as well.
Okay, I'm gonna just write it down. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mike, we have another question in the chat. What if you live multiple places?
So yes, so no, let me tell you, I'm one of those people. My mother remarried. My mother was a teenage mom. She remarried my stepfather between the ages of 9 and 16. And we left Memphis, Tennessee, and moved to Idaho. I went to, so you can put all of them. So I went to two elementary schools, 2 junior high schools, and 3 high schools in 4 states. So yes, so you can put, so if it pertains to that chapter, you can put all those places. You guys can do the city, town, state, or country during that time period. Okay. And again, this is initially symbolic. So if you write big, you're gonna use up a lot of space here in a second. Okay, again, for those who just came on, here's your age chart, here's the age ranges, and then that's what goes up top of those 5 chapters. In the very bottom circle, you split in half, you put your mother and father Who are the people who raised you on either side? Okay. All right. So now, so again, the first question was, where did you live? The second question is two parts. And what these questions are doing is they're turning on all the memories and experiences that you have for your life. And if you haven't kind of made a mini bio of your life, this is definitely what it's doing. Okay, so the next question, which you see it packs in a lot right here, has a lot to it. The next question is, where did you go to school and work during those same chapters of your life? What schools? And you can put the name of the actual school. If you're like me and you went to quite a few schools, you can put the main ones if you want to. But where did you go to school or work during those chapters of your life? I started working very young. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee. So my cousins put me to work very early, and it wasn't legal either. So yeah. Where'd you go to school and work during those same chapters of your life? Again, this is the longest part of the entire exercise. So the first question was, where'd you live? The second question was actually two parts. Where'd you go to school and work? Now, those first two questions set up a very big question. And this is why at least I personally say to people all the time, I'm the sum of my parts. So little of who I am, I can claim for myself. And I'll say, because when you tell the story right, it was always something, so many other things that were involved in the moment. And so the first two questions, after turning on those larger memories, it actually turns on a very specific set of memories. And so the third question, and you can continue writing answers to each one of them, but the third question is why the first two questions even exist. The third question is, good or bad, happy or sad, what are some memories and experiences from those same time periods in your life? Good or bad, happy or sad, what are some memories and experiences from those time periods in your life? As much as I tell people that they don't have to share at the end of this, it's always amazing when people do. And I definitely don't mind sharing. And I was saying a little bit of it. My mother was a teenage mom, literally had 5 kids by the time she was 22. And we lived with my grandmother in Memphis, Tennessee, and in a very poor neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee. And so pretty much all the things that you can imagine that can happen living in the hood, pretty much we've experienced in some way, right? So that's why I said we're the sum of our parts and so many of the things that happen. And then of course, she remarried and we ended up in Atlanta in '85. Pretty much been here ever since, on and off. So the first question was, where'd you live? The second question is, we had two parts, where you go to school and work. And then the third question is this final big question, good or bad, happy or sad? What are some memories and experiences from these chapters in your life? We've done these in personal, intimate groups at people's houses. We've done them in churches and nonprofit organizations, prisons, homeless shelters, corporations, you name it. Anywhere anyone thought this would be useful. We showed up, we've trained hundreds of people over the years on how to do this workshop. And it's always, this is one of always the most powerful pieces, because even when we've had hundreds of people in the room, I think we trained at one time 1,200 people at one time over in 3 different halls. They had about 400 people in each room all at the same time, and you could hear the silence. I know that's the awkward way to say it, but you could hear the silence when we all got to this part, and it's always deep. And this is the part that for me personally is why I never take a single person in this world for granted. You're the sum of your parts. We all, we don't know how to say it, and often we don't know, when to say it, but we need each other in so many different ways, and we don't have a chance to really express that. And for those that are coming on, I'm gonna go back to, this is the Vision Quest life mapping exercise. And it's this age chart that sets this up. You find your age here on the left, and then it gives you, and then you write your age down, the age timeline across here. So if you're 36 to 40, yours will be 0 to 8, 9 to 16, 17 to 24, 25 to 32, 33 to 40. And then on this diagram, you put your age timeline in here. At the very bottom, you put your mother and father, or the people who raised you. And then you put that timeline, again, you put that timeline across the top. And then there's 3 sets of questions. Where'd you live? Where'd you go to school? Then the second question is, where did you go to school and work? That's a 2-part question. And then the final question is, good or bad, happy or sad? What are some memories and experiences from these chapters of your life? And this is the Vision Quest life mapping exercise. Okay. Okay, now out of respect for time, I'm gonna keep going, but you can keep writing, and don't hesitate if you don't remember some of the questions. Put it in the chat, and I'll go ahead and try to answer them. And then simultaneously, as people are writing, I'm gonna keep reviewing the process to get everyone caught up. Okay, so what I've learned over the years is that I'm in your moment. I'm literally in a moment with you, a single moment with you. And the thing about the here and now is I'm in the present of your life, the present of your life, right? But the larger present of your life is all the things that you were doing before you got on this call, all the things you're going to do after you get on this call. So I try to put that into a time perspective. There are 168 hours in a week. There are 24 hours in a day, 1,440 minutes in a day. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. 86,400 seconds in a day. And that's what that middle circle is going to be, is what do you do with that 86,400 seconds? And then in the very middle circle, what we call the here and now, what I want you to do is I want you to write above and outside of that circle 86,400 seconds. So the bottom half of this, I'm not sure where that red line came from, but the bottom half of this circle, all the other sections should be filled in, but for the sake of what I'm showing you, it's just the middle. I want you to write 86,400 seconds. And then I'm going to ask you one question, and I want you to write every single thing that comes to mind when I ask you this particular question inside of that circle in the middle. That represents your moment, your here and now. What are the things that you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? Or what is the cycle of thought that you seem to have? In the middle circle, I want you to write down all the things you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes or every hour, or just throughout the course of the day. And again, this is personal, private, confidential. You never have to share this. What are the things you find yourself thinking about throughout the day? Good or bad, happy or sad? What are the things you find yourself thinking about throughout the course of the day? What are things you find yourself thinking about during the week and on the weekends, right before you go to sleep and as you wake up? Okay. So far, you should have the bottom circle filled in. That's your mother and your father, or who are the people that raised you. So all the people who have raised you. And then over on to then you should have your 5 chapters filled in now about with answering all 3 questions. Where'd you live? Where'd you go to school and work? And what are some memories and experiences from those chapters of your life? And you should now have the middle circle filled in with the things that you think about. Those are the things that occupy your presence. All right. And then we're going to skip to the future in 2 parts. So now I had someone ask me to come to a senior living center. And there was an older gentleman that was in one of the classes we were doing on this. He was like, "Man, you need to come visit my senior living center." And I was like, "Really?" Because I knew we were going to get to this part. And so when I went to the senior living center and did this, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, because there were so many people who had so much wisdom about so many different things. And so it taught me a lesson that we always try to live our absolute best life every day. And so in most cases, that's all that we can do anyway. So we just try to live our best life in every moment that we have. And it gave me such a strong feeling of life to see those people having such a strong feeling of life. And so in that very top circle, we're going to look at the future in 2 parts. And what I want you to do is I want you to split the future in half. You can do this vertically or horizontal. It'll work the same. So in one half of the circle, I want you to dare to dream and dream big. I do a lot of business coaching, executive coaching, life coaching stuff. And then I do a lot of strategic planning. And I tell people the worst thing you can do around me is not tell me what you desire to dream about, because I'm gonna do everything I can to help you get that. Everyone deserves that. So dare to dream and dream big. What would you like to accomplish in your lifetime? What are the things that you would like to accomplish in your lifetime, or that you would like to see happen in your lifetime? I have a 20-year-old daughter, 8-year-old son, and I tell both of them all the time, we're so much more than just flesh and bones. We're so much more connected to so many other things, so much more around us and in us. And so, I want them to have that same kind of spirit, of being able to give life everything that they have to give. So you dare to dream big. What would you like to accomplish in your lifetime? That's in one half of that circle. I would like for you to put that in one half of that circle. Your bucket list, your ultimate wish list. What are the things you'd like to accomplish in your lifetime? So again, you split the top circle in half, and you put in one half of that circle the things that you'd like to accomplish in your lifetime. And as much as I'm a big sky thinker, and I love having other people have big sky thoughts, but I'm also extremely pragmatic and extremely practical. But I know in most cases that we have to do things in very small increments. And so I tell people the second half of this is dedicated to the most immediate things that you would like to have or see accomplished. So typically when I meet with someone, I try to put together, what can we do in the next 15 days? What can we do in the next 30 days? That's the immediate future. It doesn't feel that way, but it's the immediate future. So in the second half of this diagram, what are the things that you like to accomplish in the next 15 to 60 days or the next 3 to 12 months? So I call this section, year to year, birthday to birthday, cycle to cycle. So the whole idea is what do you need to accomplish in the next 15 to 60 days, the next 3 to 12 months? This is our future in 2 parts. Okay. So far, your life map should be filled out with the 10 circles in the middle. They should be empty. And then you've got the bottom half, your family history in the bottom circle. And then you've got the age chart timeline of your life. And you got the 3 questions: where'd you live? Where'd you go to school and work? What are some memories and experiences from those same chapters of your life? And then you got your moment, your present, and your presents. What are your thoughts? What do you think about? That's what goes in the middle section. And then at the very top, we got the future in 2 parts. What would you like to accomplish in your lifetime? And what would you like to accomplish in the next 15 to 60 days? Next 3 to 12 months. Okay. So again, we should now have the 10 arcing circles empty. The 5 to the left are going to be different than the 5 to the right. So 3 different sets of instructions I'm going to give you here. So the 5 circles to the left are dedicated to the fact that even though we're in our moment, there's obviously a desired place of change or desired place of experience or participation. To me, that's what the future represents. How do we get from here to there? That's what these 5 circles to the left are going to be dedicated to. They're the 5 pathways to get from here to there. So the very first circle, so we're going to look at the very first circle to the left, your number 1 goal over here to the left. Out of all the things that you put in your future circle, what is the number 1 thing? It can be from your lifetime or immediate. What is the number 1 thing that you like to have or do or accomplish? I want you to put that in. It's important that it goes in this very first circle to the left. What is your number 1 goal that you'd like to accomplish or have? That's what goes in that first circle to the left. The other 4 circles do not have to be in order. I'm going to show them in order, but they don't have to be. So the next 4 circles, what is your number 2 goal or dream? Number 3, 4, or 5? They can be all lifetime, or they can be all immediate, or you can mix and match them. But the number 1 is the one that's the most important. These other ones don't have to be necessarily exactly 2, 3, 4, and 5, but you can put them in any order you want to. But the number 1 needs to be in that first circle to the left, and there'll be a reason why. You'll see here in the end. What are your top 5 goals is what you should have over to the left. I normally suggest to people that if you don't have 5 goals, try to always have at least 3. You know, it literally is the power of the universe that's in us to be able to dream. And so the idea is that if you have 3 goals, you have a main goal, a backup, and a backup to the backup. So for now, and if you have more than 5, we just want the top 5. Now, a goal without a timeline is just a wish. So what I want you to be able to do is next to each one of those goals, you can put it on the line or you can put it in the same bubble. When would you like to have that goal accomplished by? Is it something that you want to accomplish every day? Something you want to accomplish in the next week, the next month, the next year, or over the next 5 years or 10 years? When would you like to have that goal accomplished by? Inside of each one of those circles, put a timeline of when you would like to have that goal accomplished by. We all live inside of each other's stories. And the possibilities of how, even though it seems like we're writing our own book, but we're part of other people's book. We're part of their chapters. And you know, we're the sum of our parts. So what are those top 5 dreams and goals in the timeline? So now you should have the 5 circles to the right should be the only thing that's empty at this point. Okay. So now the 5 circles to the right, there's 2 parts to it as well. Okay, so here I have an example of so far how your map should look. Again, your parents or the people who raised you, your life timeline, the 3 questions: where'd you live, where'd you go to school and work, what are some memories? The middle section, your thoughts, what do you think about once every 5 minutes, once an hour? The future split in half, your wish list, and then also the things that you probably need immediately or would like to see accomplished immediately, your top 5 goals, and when those goals would like to be accomplished by. So now on the right-hand side, your number 1 thought, that's what we're getting ready to cover. So what I need you to do is come back to the middle section here, 86,400 seconds. Out of all the things that you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour, I want you to put your number 1 thought, and only the number 1. We don't want 2, 3, 4, or 5. What is the number 1 thing that you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? I want you to be able to put that into that first thought, the first circle to the right. The other 4 circles are going to be something different. Okay, of all the things you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour, what is the number 1 thing you think about? Okay, now the other 4 circles, they're dedicated to what we physically do. What we physically do. I had mentioned before there are 168 hours in a week. What I would like for you to do in an average week or an average month, what are the top 4 places you spend your time? Physical locations. And they don't have to be in order actually, but it just, what are the top 4 places you spend your time? I did this workshop at a high school, and a young lady came up to me, and a young lady said to me in the instruction, she said, "Ms. Fleming, I'm always at the house, but I'm in different rooms in the house." But that's now completely true for COVID. And so if you don't leave the house much, you can put the different rooms of the house that you're in. So what are the top 4 places you spend your time in an average week, in an average month? So if you notice on the screen, if we did nothing else, this map looks complete, and it has all the sections and elements of all the ways that we actually make decisions in our lives. And there's so many different components of this that, depending on how we would talk about this exercise, it literally will give us the ability to communicate with people both what we feel, what we think, what we need, what we desire, just our challenges and everything that we have in our lives. But over the years, I've learned that this map is not completely complete. And the thing that I try to remind people about this map as a whole is that if you see up at the top, I intentionally put the map of the United States, right? There's 320 plus million people. There's 320 plus million people in the United States, over 7 billion people in the world. But the universe has requested all of our presence. The universe has seen something significant in the moments that we're here. And so in that, I give all the energy I possibly can, because that's just, my sense of, if nothing else, I know things can't be perfect, but I definitely know they can be managed. And I do everything I can to try to exert that energy both to myself and the people and to everyone that's around me, and absolutely to my family and my children. But if we did nothing else, this map gives you access to that as a conversation, as a way of reflecting, a way of kind of processing and exercising. So, but there's 2 pieces left that I intentionally did not put on this map. And the reason is because more often than not, people say that it doesn't, these two things don't exist, or they don't understand those 2 elements. So depending on how big you wrote, you might have to do this in the bottom left-hand corner, what I'm getting ready to give you instructions for, or you may have to do it in the top left-hand corner. But what I would like for you to do is in the bottom left-hand corner, and we call it, you see, I've been saying that the universe needs your presence. And so the idea is that, and we need each other. And I'm big on that. I know that's hard for all of us to say. And that's why, again, I don't expect any friendship or relationship or anything in my life to be perfect. I just expect things to be manageable. And so, so the contribution that we kind of make, and most people, we don't normally see it all the way through. All work is co-working. All existing is coexisting. And so the idea is that, what does that look like in our lives? And so what I would like for you to do, if you have room, in the bottom left-hand corner, is to draw another circle. And this is intentionally not already on the drawing. Or you can draw it in the top left-hand corner. And we're going to call this circle the support circle.
Now, for me, I live and thrive off of my support circle. There's not much I try to do in this life by myself. That's just, it rarely ever works out that way anyway. But I've learned in my life that that's the best story anyway, is how the times that it worked out when other people have helped me or assisted me, or I've helped them and assisted them. So that support circle is dedicated to that. And so what I would like for you to write in that support circle is the name and initials of the people that are in your support circle. And then I throw this part in there too, because this is absolutely 100% alive for me. They can be living or past. If you hear in the voice or the spirit or soul of people that have been in your life at any point, I want you to write their name in there. If that's part of, my grandmother passed in 1993, I literally have some kind of conversation or experience. Maybe it's still some element of grief, but I feel her presence every single day. She was that wonderful of a person. Living or past, who are the people in your support circle? You can write their names or initials of the people that are in your support circle. And I can guarantee you Tia's in mine, and obviously in all of ours in some way, because she's allowed this moment to even happen. So Tiah and Sean and our business partner, they're always in my thoughts. Who are the people, living or past, personal or professional or otherwise, spiritual, financial, that are in your support circle? Health. Okay. And then there's one more piece to this. In the right-hand corner, if you have time, bottom right-hand corner, and again, I have people draw this in because most people will try to say that this is the only thing that matters. You're the person behind your eyes, right? So in the bottom right-hand corner, or you can put it in the top right-hand corner if you have any more room. So what I want you to do is draw in another circle. And this one single circle, believe it or not, can end up being one of the most powerful or the most challenging circles in this entire map. I want you to label that circle the alone circle. To spell the word alone, you have to write the word one. It is a real space, a real place, a real time. And depending on how we manage that circle will make us think that everything else that you wrote on this exercise either matters greatly or does not matter at all. But I have what I call the alone list, my personal alone list. My personal alone list is that in my desire to want to kind of stay focused or to process the day or process my life, I read, I write, I pray, I research. I love documentaries. I watch documentaries. So I'm forever trying to gain insight on my life, on the things that I can do and how to do those things better. And I call that the alone list. What is your alone list? That's what I want you to put in that circle. What are the things that you do that seems to, at times, to get you centered or back into, focused or gets you energized or gets you going? They could be both things you currently do or things that you desire to do. What are those things that you do that kind of gets you into the strength of your alone mind? This is more of your personal routines and habits, So at this point, you don't have to write anything else. But I'm a trainer and instructor, and I do all those things. So I tell people there's no way I would have had you do this much without taking a test. And so you don't have to have your pen down, but we're gonna take a tour of who you are, and we're gonna see how you navigate these moments and places in your life. So again, there was someone just joined. So the very bottom circle, we looked at your family history, or that's a brief synopsis of your family history. Then above that, we looked at we got your life timeline, the 5 chapters of your life. Where'd you live? Where'd you work? Where'd you go to school? What and good or bad? What's some memories and experiences? What do you think about once every 5 minutes, once an hour? We split your future in half. We looked at things that you want to do in your lifetime, the things you need to do in the next 15 days to the next year, your top 5 dreams and goals, the timeline, the number one thing you think about, and the top 4 places you spend your time. Okay, and so we're gonna take a little test, and the test actually starts where we left off. How well do you know yourself? So we started off in the alone list, in the alone circle. And so I this part, as much as I'm extremely optimistic,
I grew up understanding that sometimes you had to fight your way through the day, literally, figuratively, emotionally. I mean, you had to be prepared to fight your way through the day. And so you do everything you can to try to find that peace in your joy, right? So that alone list usually what helps us get to that space. But the reality is we can have a bad moment, a bad day, a bad week, bad months, bad years. And we're trying everything we can in that alone list. We try everything, we all do. In some way, we try that along list when things are challenging. But when for some reason, if that list seems to fall short, remember this is a map, and maps are used to guide us, to direct us, or to give us some sense of where things are. So if you're struggling in your alone list, where on your map should you travel to try to get some help? And in most cases, people will say they'll travel to their support circle. They'll go, I'll travel to my support circle. And so here's an odd fact, but I mean, it is what it is. They say that 45% of the people above the age of 35 have lost at least one parent. I did this exercise in Dallas right before COVID, and probably had about 20 or 30 people in the room. I was the only person in the room who still had both of my parents still alive. We take that for granted, that we think that family circle is there for everybody. In a lot of cases, it's not. So that's why a lot of people go over to their support circle. They can't go to the family circle. And even if they could, sometimes they move past the place where the family is. So there's only so much support that the family can provide. And so that's why we find ourselves a lot over into the support circle, which to me, there is no shame in that whatsoever. I am the sum of my parts. I am the sum of my parts. I'm not trying to be no more of a burden to the people in my life. But sometimes I have to recognize when I need those people in my life. And I don't hesitate to do it, because I played a lot of sports growing up. So you just don't do anything by yourself. All work is co-work. All existing is coexisting. And so now let's come over to that support circle. So when you get over to your support circle, I want you to look at your support circle. And the question that I asked was, living or past, who are the people that are in your support circle? So I want you to look at that list. Some of these people may be on this call, some of them may not. But if those same people did this vision quest and we asked the same question, who are the people that are in your support circle? Would they have written your name in their support circle? Would they have put your name in their support circle? That is the whole thing, is that no matter what in that support circle, we have to be willing to have the give and take. We should be willing to contribute as much as we ask, or what we require or need or desire. And for me personally, my support circle, it just cannot be big enough. I'm forever trying to explore, how do I relate? How do I manage that support circle? How do I give up my time, my priorities? What is it that I can ask and feel comfortable asking? Or what is it that I can feel, participating in? So it's a process all by itself, just managing that support circle. But I definitely want people to know that they can rely on me or count on me in that support circle as well. So that support circle is very key to how we probably have managed all these other elements of our lives. And then before I leave that bottom section, the other thing about that, I'd said originally that the section that represents the people who are our guardians, our parents, our grandparents, our relatives, or maybe literally if you grew up in a group home or were adopted and all those different things, it's not to be taken lightly that we consume these people's diet, their routines, their habits, all these different things that are who they are. And where do those things reflect in our lives? More often than not, in those first two chapters of our life. In those first two chapters of our life. So we're going to move up to the next section, the 5 chapters of our life. And I'm actually going to give you an assignment. And typically someone will try it when I initially say it. So when I asked about the 5 sections of your life, and we were traveling through the memories of your mind. So the idea is that most likely we know our experiences only from the perspective that we participated in. So what I give people as an assignment is that if you get a chance, Google the day you were born and the city that you were born in. The day you were born and in the city that you were born. If you've never done that, more often than not, Google does such a good job of chronicling what happened on that day. And more often than not, when we've done these live, usually I have somebody in the class, they immediately will say, man, I didn't know that happened. And the point that I try to make to people is the ship does not dictate the ocean. We're all these big, beautiful ships, but we need to understand how the world has swayed the way other people had to interact with us. Sometimes the stress and the pressure, we all are feeling it right now, COVID, right? We're living our lives, and then all of a sudden this big storm comes about and says, hey, y'all all need to go sit down all around the world. All 7 billion y'all need to sit down. And so, but it's how we all respond to that and react to that. And sometimes we miss it because we don't think we should share our stories or share our experiences. But Google tracks all of that. And sometimes it'll show you perspective on things that you thought were going on in your life at that time. And that's why I said in the beginning that if you tell me what year you were born, what part of the country, I probably can tell you what your parents did for a living, because they only had a few options depending on what was going on. So those patterns that make the ocean sway that the way it does, sometimes we have to spend as much time understanding the things that interact on us than the way we just simply live our lives. And not only can you do that for the day that you were born, if you go back to certain memories, bad and good and bad, and you Google that time period and that city or that place, you may see why, what caused that, caused those situations. If you pretty much grew up after 86, 87, drugs and guns and stuff and gangs and stuff hit the streets all across America. And so I don't know a single family in the entire United States or anywhere else that I've ever met that wasn't impacted by that 10, 15-year time period. So you have all those different dynamics. If you grew up when the world was at war, Vietnam or Korean War or even World War II, it impacted every single thing that was going on, depending on who was the president, the economy. All those things were impacting the experiences that we were having, and we thought it was just happening to us. And then the wonderful stories that we all have, good and bad. In church, it's the testimonies. It's the way we testify about who we are. There's so much to make up who we are. There's so much power in those stories and the things that we share, or that we get a chance, and sometimes we don't share, or we're afraid to share with others. And I see it from the very beginning. This is a personal, private exercise. No one ever has to share, but we definitely love when people do. So that's the exercise of the 5 chapters of your life. Now we're going to move up to the middle section. Your 86,400 seconds is actually reflected by the number 1 goal and your number 1 thought. If you look at it, look at your number 1 goal and your number 1 thought. Do they match? Do they match? Or do they have a relationship with each other? And it's not a bad thing if they don't match. The only time that I've ever seen something that I was concerned about is when they were 2 separate things. I did this at a youth detention center, and a young man came up to me all excited because his number 1 goal, he wanted to go to college. And for those who may not know, his number 1 thought, though, was the trap. I met this young man in the jail, and he was still thinking about what he was going to have to do out in the trap. And the reason why is he was in jail learning from other people, telling them how to go out and sell drugs better. And I looked at the young man because I didn't want him to be discouraged. I just told him, I said, the distance between those 2 things, when your number 1 goal and your number 1 thought relate to each other, you're probably getting more focused. You're probably getting more resolved. But when they're 2 separate, whole different things, one can take you completely away from the other. But that's not the one that I worry about. Look at all 5 of your goals. Look at all the 5 goals that you have. And look at even all the goals that you put up at the top, both your lifetime and immediate goals. When I asked you, what are the things you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? How many of your goals made it into the things that you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? I love that. And so the idea is that there's a process of change, because that's what our goals and our dreams represent. It's the process of change that we all see and feel. And to me, and this is the part that kind of seems solemn and dark at times, I'll put all my energy into living, because I know how much death kind of takes care of itself. Doesn't mean that I don't think about it, don't prepare about it. I probably think about mortality more often than most people want to admit. But at the same time, I know that I'm in the presence of life at this moment. So I have to figure out a way to give it everything I got just in that particular moment. Because sometimes me going after my dreams and goals sometimes has nothing to do with me accomplishing it, but the people that I meet on that path. And those stories are just as great as the moments that I'm able to accomplish those dreams and goals or have those dreams and goals. There's something to this journey thing. It is so much powerful than that. And I love documentaries. There's a wonderful documentary on Netflix called Surviving Death. It's just amazing if anyone has ever seen it. And so it's pretty powerful. And so it's just interesting because they're starting to make it into a science of way they're addressing how we all kind of live in paths. So, but that's dedicated to the left-hand side. If you find that most of your dreams and goals are not in the things that you think about, most likely it's the things that you do, the habits and routines. Tiah has talked to me a lot about health and wellness and those components. It shows up from the moment that we wake up. Our dedication and commitment to health and wellness really does. It shows up in all those moments, but it shows up in the situations where we are around other people. I don't think there's a day that goes by where I have to find myself pushing myself beyond what I'm comfortable wanting to do. If I stopped in the course of the day and only did what I thought was comfortable, I probably wouldn't get most of the things that I want to have done. In other words, somewhere along the line, you try to force yourself past the discipline, past the discomfort to get to the discipline. And so you get into the discipline of things, and it just tells you, hey, I might not feel like it today, but it's something I know I need to get done. Let me at least go try. Let me at least try to start the process. So this entire vision quest, and again, I do not take it for granted, because in the course of all these people that are on this planet, we struggle telling each other that we need each other. We struggle so much being able to understand what does that look like and how's that managed. Because it does. I had someone years ago, they were like, well, I love this exercise, Michael, but can you live my life? And I was like, nah, I don't think we can live each other's life. But it's the way that we should co-live. It's always it's always that coexisting. It's not work, it's co-work. It's all those things. We just don't say that extra word, that extra piece to it. So the idea in the exercise by itself is that we have a way of expressing ourselves. If nothing else from this exercise, the only thing that I normally ask of people is that, does the exercise help? If no more than just give you a moment of reflection of being able to just kind of have a moment to have that story stamped for that time period. So for what we're doing here in the exercise, and Tiah, I definitely want you to speak up in regards to what you kind of see as the next steps, because beyond the fact that we can open up this and kind of talk about this as an exercise, I never take it for granted on whether it's effective or not, and I'm definitely not doing that now. But the idea is that if there's things anyone wants to share about the exercise by itself, we definitely can explore that. But beyond this exercise, I actually have this entire system set up so that what you're able to do, you're able to put together a 1 to 5 year life plan. And so there's a whole separate class that I was telling Tiah that we could set up. And believe it or not, the months of the year are the ocean. There are certain things that happen every month that impact our ability to have really control or management over our lives. I mean, taxes are due in April, right? Colleges graduate in May. And then you got summertime, and you've got school starting back in August and September, and then you got the holidays. So there are certain things that sway decisions that we make in our lives. And so believe it or not, I take this little diagram, and from your life map, we're able to help you make a 1 year life plan, and month by month. And then from this system, we actually can look at it week by week if you want to, all 168 hours in a week. And then on top of that, we use this system to kind of, I never want to tell a person what to do. I want people to be able to tell us how can we help. So if this is you feeling at your worst, or that you think you're at your worst, and this is where you see yourself at your best, where would you say you are now? And what does it take to help you constantly, to help you consistently move up to the next place of both peace and accomplishment and joy? So this entire system is set up to kind of take and look at the way a person views their life, and then says, hey, you know what? Show me, tell me what it is that you're experiencing, and then allow me to be in that support circle. I'm just saying generally, it doesn't have to be me, but this is a way of being able to help other people see that, look, I'm giving life everything I got. And that doesn't always look like the person who wins the MVP, but I at least want to be on the field playing, right? And so the people I know is even the exercise that we do. And I'm just showing y'all these, but these are all part of a different series in class. So who are the success partners in your life? Who are the failure partners in your life? This exercise gives you a chance to write that out and kind of think through it. And by the way, we have software for all of this. So I put the link to the software. The website is called my-lifequest.com. So every bit of what you're seeing, there's actually software for all of this as well. And this is what the actual software looks like. It's at my-lifequest.com. And it's personal, private, and confidential. We have the same security out there that you have on GoDaddy and Facebook and everybody else. It's all encrypted and all that stuff on our side. So this is pretty much, and that's why I said in the beginning, I don't do a lot of trying to introduce myself, because it would give away some of the questions and those kind of things. But I definitely, for the rest of the time that we have, if anyone's got any questions or comments, or Tiah, if there's anything else that you want to particularly cover, and if anybody's interested, like I said, we'll have a follow-up class to kind of do some of the other diagrams and expressions, or we even can have an exercise just talking just about this diagram, talking about the vision quest by itself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. We really, really appreciate you doing this exercise with us. I mean, I remember when I walked through this with you, I was just, and it really just made me think about my life. It made me think about my journey, what I've gone through. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And so now it's helping me to really identify, how do I move forward, especially after going through a breast cancer journey, or cancer for anyone, you just kind of start, sometimes we tend to lose who we are. We lose ourselves. And so by doing this exercise, it reminds you of who you are, the strength that you have, what you've gone through in life, and how you've been an overcomer, and then what the great things are to come before you. Thinking about what I want to do, and going out and accomplish it. Looking at your, what I like to call your sister circle, or your circle of support. Really looking and analyzing those people in your life, and are you showing up for them? Not so much are they showing up for you, but are you also showing up for them? So I want to open the floor up really, and just give everybody an opportunity to, say something, share what your thoughts are about going through this exercise. If you want to share, something personal, feel free. If you don't want to share something personal, that's fine too. But just giving you an opportunity to just kind of give us some feedback and let us know what you thought about this exercise.
I will hop in. Please disregard the noise. We're having our gutters cleaned out, and they picked the worst time possible to do it. And that's why I kept getting up. I love this. When he said, that center part, that 86,400 seconds, do they meet, your number one thought, and does it pair up with my number one goal? Like everything mirrored each other. So I was like, oh, good. That helps. That actually gave me some relief, because a big part of, well, my number one thought is always my future. Like, am I going to be accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? I desire to be able to take care of my parents, because I'm looking at my grandmother, and she's, she had to make some huge transitions after my grandfather's death, and she's still working, and she had node, and so forth and so on. So I don't want my parents to have to do anything unless they want to do it. I don't want them to do things. I want them to do it out of them wanting to, not out of necessity, I guess you could say. Even down to my children, like, not to say that they're part of my dream, but I know what their dreams are. So I think about their dreams a lot, and what I do to help, because as you said, they are a product of what we're feeding them. So that's actually, I end up going back to school and working on degrees, and I'm working on healing myself. That was actually my number one dream, is to be healed. I want to be healed and whole, because you can't, I honestly feel like you can't be a truly good parent if you're not healed in places that are broken, because you end up creating generational curses for your children. And I'm learning that as I go along. So I want to be more healed, so my children can see me as a whole person, so that they can be whole people, and they can have children become whole people, so forth and so on. So I love this. I never thought about breaking it down like that. I was the young lady who asked, like, what if we lived in multiple places, went to multiple schools? I was not a military brat. My parents just moved around a lot. I went to 5 different elementary schools.
Wow.
Right. So, but by the time I hit what I would say are the most impressionable years, middle school, we just calmed down. We didn't move anymore.
Wow.
My mom and my dad didn't move again until pretty much everybody was out of the house. But I realized how that shaped and molded me, and even talking to my husband, how those things come into play, how our outlooks are based on our childhood. So this was awesome.
Wow.
And Jocelyn, you brought up a few good points. And Letitia, after I say this, I'll pass it over to you. One, when we say, what are your thoughts? Oftentimes, I think this is a great tool that helps us really identify, are we putting ourselves first? Because if our thoughts are not about the things that we want to do and accomplish, we're not putting ourselves first. I think the other thing it allows us to identify is, oftentimes as survivors, when we finish treatment, we experience that fear of recurrence. And so then that helps to, answers the question of, what are your thoughts? Are you dealing with that? are your thoughts all the time, is this cancer going to come back? Every time you feel, a pain, an ache or whatever, your mind goes to that. So that's something that can also, kind of help you identify that and allow you to be able to work through that process. And then the third thing that I was thinking about, even with this is, and now I'm drawing a blank, chemo brain moment.
Yeah.
But it was a really good point I was going to bring up about that third point. But Letitia, I'll pass it over to you and it'll come back. It was something really good. I'm like, darn it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main thing that this exercise helped me to think about, when you ask like what are my number one goals versus what am I thinking about all the time, and although those things are aligned, I took it a step further just in my head, like, well, what are my actions every day? And do my actions align with my thoughts and my goals? And I found that sometimes when, when you're so caught up with your family or your job or life, but I'm thinking about, hey, I need to be focused on this, my own personal health and wellness. Am I aligning my actions with what I'm thinking about, what I'm praying about, what my goals are about? And I guess I never really, it was just like a light bulb moment. And I'm like, oh my God, these are my goals and this is what I'm thinking about all the time. But why am I having such a hard time making the action part a priority?
Yeah.
And I think that will be kind of the part of the continuation of taking what we've done tonight and building upon this. And I remember what I was going to say, when we look at breast cancer, and I know everybody's not breast cancer, but I'm just, putting this one out there. Many of us have probably asked the question, how did I get to this place? We know only 5 to 10% of women who have been diagnosed have a genetic mutation. And then it begs us to ask the question, well, what about that 90%? And so one of the things that Mike said, which I thought was really impactful, and you hear this and you learn it, but just hearing it, inherit the behaviors, the food, the diet, all of those things from our families. And so as we start to think about those things, when we look at that 90% of people who've been diagnosed, we start to ask, where is it coming from? And, outside of genetics, we know that that's the 5 to 10, but we also know it's lifestyle, behaviors, exposures. Now they're talking adverse childhood experiences, things that we've dealt with as a child. And so, stressors, abuse, any of that stuff that we may have experienced put us at a greater risk. And it's not to shame ourselves, it's not to beat ourselves up. Society have created so many things that put all of us at risk. So now it gives us a chance to really understand as we go back and we ask the question, how did I get here? Is looking at some of those things to say, yes, some of these things are out of our control. Some of the things may be within our control, but then how do we change that for the next generation? Especially when we talk about, we want to end disparities and we want to address, we all want to be advocates so that our daughters and our granddaughters and, cousins, nieces, even nephews, husbands, grandfathers, whatever, we don't want them to have to hear cancer in their lifetime. So now thinking about what we've gone through and what we've experienced, and again, continue to work on this tool to kind of open your eyes a little bit more to say, okay, what are the things that I can do to help with the next generation? And I think it's a great tool for you to even do this exercise with your family and have conversations and discussions around what they've put on there and how can we all work together to help us as a community, a sisterhood, a family go to the next level. And so, Mike, I like where you had the one to rate yourself today versus tomorrow. That could be something that you could continuously use to see how you're leveling up.
Mhm.
So that's just, that was my 2 cents and why I wanted to bring Mike on board, do this with us to kind of open our eyes as we, move into spring. We talk about spring cleaning. This is that time to start making some changes and making a shift. Yep. Anybody else want to share anything? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. You know, one of our goals is, again, to get back to doing this on every third Thursday of the month. Just having different activities, different exercises, different events. You know, some days we'll have some fun playing like games. Some days we'll just, you know, chat as a sisterhood. Hey, what's on your mind? What's going on? A sisterhood check-in. We'll have guest speakers to come in. I mean, we're trying to line it up so that we can keep us engaged because, again, as I stated early on, you know, yes, COVID is here and we're seeing things shift with COVID, but we know cancer is not going anywhere. And as a matter of fact, it's getting worse, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. So we may see an influx of more women who are being diagnosed. So, you know, definitely stay tuned, keep plugged in. I will like to ask that you all post in the sisterhood something that you got out of tonight's session. And that's going to be something to just help encourage other women to, you know, join as we continue to do these in the future. But, you know, post in the group one thing that you learned tonight or that you got out of tonight's session. Mike, you have any final thoughts?
No, it's an absolute honor, and I definitely, only because of respect for time, I'll talk with Tiah, and if there's any other classes or workshops, we have a whole series of these classes and workshops that we do, and both in group sessions and individual sessions, and technology is a big part of my background, so we have software for a lot of this, and so the Vision Quest. We're working on a project called King Streets. There are over 1,000 cities that have a street named after Dr. King. And so we're trying to figure out how to put these programs and services in communities across the country. We're obviously I'm collaborating directly with Tiah on My Style Matters. And so, you know, we are not trying to do this by ourselves. This is for all of us. I love that. Who's able to do that? And so I got to learn how to do all that. And so, yeah, but no, it's not, there's never just a I for me. There's a wonderful group of people around me that are the same spirit. We all are trying to figure out how to look out for each other and be at our best for each other. So it's absolute honor, everyone. So look forward to hopefully seeing and talk to y'all again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And thanks, ladies, for joining. I will be entering everyone's name into a drawing. As you know, I like to give away little gifts. So for those who did attend tonight, we'll put your name into a drawing and I will make the announcement of who wins. Probably tomorrow. I'm gonna try to get to it tomorrow. You know, I got a million things going on right now because we're planning for our Spring Into Action. We actually changed the name. Our Spring Into Action event is going to be on April the 8th. We're going to have a celebrity breast surgeon that's going to be, it's a panel of speakers. It's focused on Black women and breast cancer, but we're dealing with these things that, you know, I've been talking about that really truly affect when it comes to, you know, exposures, lifestyle behaviors, diet, all of that stuff. So if you all have that you want to this event, please let me know. We're going to have an environmentalist, someone from Environmental Working Group, EWG. If you're not familiar with them, they're a pretty well-known organization that's really advocating for us to live a clean and healthy lifestyle. The celebrity breast surgeon, and then we're going to have a nutritionist as well. That's going to be the kickoff to our Food for Life. The 5-week program. Applications are still open. And last I checked, we have 60-something applications. So we're still taking applications, but it's a 5-week program focused on plant-based lifestyle, helping us to just live better, eat better. You know, even if you're going through treatment, it doesn't matter. You can still participate in these programs. So I look forward to seeing you all next month, and hopefully you guys will be applying for the Food for Life, and you'll be able to attend the Spring Into Action is going to be for anyone, and it's nationwide. So we really want to help just continue to get the word out. And again, don't forget our Breast Health Matters program. If you're interested in us doing it for your sisterhood, you know, your sister circle, to educate women that you love and care about breast health and to be more healthy when it comes to their breasts, so they don't have to hear the words, it's cancer. Feel free to let me know and we'll get something set up. All right, ladies, love you much and have a good night.
No, honor
All right.
y'all.
Take
Have a good
care.
night. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All righty, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Tia. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Mike, I need you to send me the list of attendees.
Oh, how do I do that?
Once we close out, it'll be in your in the files in Zoom. It'll be on Zoom. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'll go back into the section of the thing of the phone. Okay, I'll figure that part out.
Okay.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's actually in your settings. You'll go into the reports and it should give you a list of people who attended.
Can I do that while we're on, or I gotta end it?
I think you got to end it.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and do
Yeah.
that. Start that process.
Okay. And
All
if not, I think you got to record it. So I
did.
can pick it up
Yeah.
that way. Okay.
Okay. All right. And I'll
Thank
send you
you.
that too. You know.
Okay.
Thanks to you.
All right. Bye-bye.